Let's get the views now of Mark Littlewood, Director of the Popular Conservatism Organisation. Mark, welcome to Morning Glory.
Good morning, Mark. Great to be with you.
Good to see you. Is this government dangerous?
Oh, I think beyond dangerous. I mean, the real problem you've highlighted just there about migration statistics, Mark, but it's incompetent. I mean, it does increasingly seem, doesn't it, that virtually no part of our governmental system works or operates. And this mishandled budget from Rachel Reeves is, I'm afraid, going to make things even worse. I think there's quite a lot of pie-in-the-sky ideas about the revenue she's going to try and collect, which is going to be extraordinarily difficult to collect. So we're increasingly living in a country where we all pretend that the government functions, but it barely does and is getting worse by the day. Whilst our taxes go up, our security goes down and our economy flatlines. A pretty grim state of affairs, I'm afraid, Mark, and one I expect to get worse over the next year or two.
If you kill our energy supply, which is what net zero is doing, if you tank the economy, that's actually a national security issue, isn't it?
Yes, you're probably right that it is. I mean, our energy strategy is largely non-existent, extremely confusing, and insofar as you can derive what they're attempting to achieve, a ludicrous exercise in self-harm. We also, I strongly suspect now, to give a rather nerdy economist view of matters, we are on the wrong side of the Laffer curve on a good number of taxes. That is to say, at some point when you dial up tax rates, you actually get less revenue because you deter activity. If you keep dialing up, for example, national insurance, to give an example, you'll find that fewer people are employed, therefore less revenue comes in, more businesses shutter up. So we're really operating on a fantasy at the moment in terms of how the British economy is actually operating. And we'll almost certainly, Mark, I think, be back in a year's time with another remarkable black hole of 10, 20, 30, 40 billion pounds that the government will then try and fill again by raising taxes yet again, thereby perpetuating the doom loop that businesses will start to close, growth will go down, and the black hole will never be filled.
Well, that's right, because low growth and high inflation are the equivalent of economic quicksand, are they not?
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, you'll remember, I mean, it seems like a generation ago, doesn't it, Mark, that we were told that this government was going to be laser focused on growth, that economic growth was its #1 priority. Now, if you can get economic growth into the system, it doesn't solve all of your problems. Of course it doesn't. But my God, it eases them. If we could start growing the economy at the sort of levels that we were used to a generation ago, maybe at 3% a year, suddenly everything gets a lot better. People are getting pay rises, so they don't need to be on so much welfare. Taxes are flooding into the Treasury rather than being disappointingly low. But the OBR's scoring, and my judgment as well, is there is not a single measure in the budget that will in any way encourage growth. So the economy is flatlining. But you know what? It's worse than that, because the overall economy is maybe going to grow by about, I don't know, 1% per annum for sake of argument. But the population is growing by at least that. So we're all in our own individual recessions, because the UK as a whole might have more money, but there's more people to divide that money between. So in essence, nobody's getting any richer. And I mean, living under this government feels a bit like being in a loveless and abusive marriage with absolutely no prospect of divorce. It's all extremely depressing.
It is indeed. And if you look at the cementing of this cult of welfarism that was celebrated so enthusiastically on Wednesday, if you look at the cost of borrowing, if you look at the national debt, if you look at the deficit, if you look at the low growth, the issue we've got, inflation as well, of course, Mark, is that we are very vulnerable to any potential economic shocks going forward.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. So there's an awful lot of wishful thinking that the future will be bright and there won't be events to knock us off course. And more likely than not, when events happen, typically, unfortunately, they tend to be on the downside of the ledger. You know, war breaks out, or there's some natural disaster, or some economy flatlines elsewhere with a knock-on effect to Britain. And we haven't insulated ourselves against this at all. we've been pretending, I mean, I have to say previous to this government, but basically for the last 25 years, we've been pretending or hoping that nothing will knock us off course. So we haven't built up any reserves. Were there to be another pandemic and us to foolishly go into lockdown again, we haven't got the money to pay for that. So we've run out of road in terms of any sort of insurance strategy, I'm afraid. We're basically now living on tick, and we're hoping for an upside miracle, whereas we all know, Mark, sadly, there tends to be downside events rather than upside miracles in order to help our economy along. It's all very, very bleak. I'm sorry to share that with you.
Who would want to take over in 3 years' time? They're going to need most of the term of the next parliament just to fix things before they can do anything positive.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, Britain now needs an enormous repair job. We've got to get back to some basic truths. You've already underscored the welfare state spiralling out of control. I mean, by the end of this parliament, we're now set to spend about £400 billion a year just on cash handouts of one form or another, be that state pensions, child benefit, housing benefit, or the like. The next government's going to have to get back to the founding principles of the welfare state. That when it was set up, the idea wasn't that there would be colossal amounts of money sloshing around like this, usually misdirected. It was that the welfare state was there to help you for a short period of time at subsistent levels of support. Well, that spiraled completely out of control. And it's going to be messy and difficult to get that down, but it's going to be a necessity in order to get government spending down. We've got to get back to those founding principles of the welfare state. We've got to start not just balancing the books, Mark, but actually running budget surpluses. So we've got a little bit of a buffer zone and we can start paying down the national debt, not just servicing it. Whoever forms the next government is going to have one hell of a task. I think the only piece of good news, you know what, is that the British public, I think, are several stages ahead of the political elite in realising that things are going wrong and that very substantial surgery is going to be required. But I fear none of that surgery is going to happen under the present regime.
Mark, a delight to have you on the show. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Mark Littlewood is the Director of Popular Conservatism UK.